As we listen to my friend Steve Azar, One Mississippi, the theme song for SuperTalk Outdoors and the new state song from Mississippi, I want to welcome you from the Foundation Studio right here on Biloxi's Back Bay to SuperTalk Outdoors, where we celebrate every single Monday at lunchtime the world-class outdoors of the state of Mississippi, because as I say every week, we are the capital of the outdoors in America. Thank you for joining us on the powerful SuperTalk Mississippi Radio Network or on SuperTalk TV at C Spire TV. But you might be watching the show on YouTube or Facebook or listening on your favorite podcast. We're available on any podcast platform you can think of. It's July the 10th, 2023. I want to especially thank the foundation, the title sponsor of SuperTalk Outdoors, the Foundation for Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks, is focused on important issues about protecting Mississippi's outdoor heritage. In fact, in the second half of the show, I'm going to remind you of a one-of-a-kind raffle that's underway at the foundation as we speak. Some really, really special prizes. You need to get your ticket. You need to get your ticket. By the way, my views on this show are mine and not those of the foundation. When it comes to the outdoors and outdoors issues, you can count on me to say what needs to be said. And I have to tell you, I'm honored to be here. Hey, listen, I mentioned the last couple of weeks about an alarming change regarding chronic wasting disease passed by the Mississippi Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks Commission at their last meeting. Now, this is the third time that a chronic wasting disease management plan has been changed by the commission without any discussion. There was no public input, and they didn't ask the Department of Biologists their opinion. Commissioner Gary Rhodes, who's incidentally the mayor of Flowood, offered the resolution that substantially changed the geography of the department, of how the department responds to a positive CWD test. And again, it was passed without any discussion. I noticed last week that Hunter Cloud, who's a reporter for the Brookhaven Daily Leader, wrote a column. The name of the column is Hunters and commissioners must take chronic wasting disease seriously. I want to hum a few bars from Hunter's column. He said this, that it was a shock to my ears when I heard the word CWD prions, that's chronic wasting disease, were detected in Claiborne County soil at this month's commission meeting. As an outdoorsman, I had watched the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks Commission go against biological studies, facts, and best management practice in favor of supporting their friends or businesses thriving off the sale of cord feed, at the cost of the state's deer herd. It is a developing storm and one people should pay attention to. I think that Hunter goes on to write a terrific column. It's really good, frankly, to see Mississippi media starting to take notice. I think too often the commission's work is out of sight, out of mind. Hunter goes on to write in his column this, that deer hunters across the state should be paying attention to these decisions. Alarming research presented at this year's International Chronic Wasting Disease Symposium suggests that there is a greater risk of zoonotic spread. Now, what that is, incidentally, is the spread between animals and humans. I urge fellow hunters to pay attention to what's happening in our state and in our commission meetings. Again, I thought it was a terrific column by Hunter Cloud of the Daily Leader. We posted the column at the SuperTalks Outdoors Facebook page. I want to give people like Hunter a shout out because it's important that we see more media in this state taking notice. As a former newspaper publisher, I learned well through a long career that light on the public process is a very powerful thing. It's good to see light on the commission. Conservation decisions are too often in the dark, which is to say that the work of the commission isn't on the radar screens of the vast majority of Mississippians who love the outdoors. One of the key goals of this show, SuperTalk Outdoors, is to provide the light, and along with other journalists like Hunter and others who are paying closer attention, we're gonna provide a check for those who wield the greatest power in our outdoors world. And shining the light is important, shining light on what they're doing and informing the public about their acts. You can count on me to keep the light shining. And incidentally, I want to thank you for your feedback. It is clear to me, based on the feedback that I've gotten over the last couple of weeks, that people are paying much closer attention. Incidentally, the next commission meeting is this week, July the 13th, Thursday, this week. At the Grand Hotel Ballroom. and that's the Grand Hotel Ballroom. It's at 111 North Broadway Street in Natchez. It's going to be in Natchez this week. So if you're from that area, go by there and let them know what you're thinking in the public comment section. And I think you'll be glad you did. Anyway, let's shift gears. I want to move over now to my new friend. We enjoyed visiting before the show started, Stephen Westerfield. He's an officer with the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks, and he's the commander of the Special Response Team. We'll talk more about what that is here in just a second. But anyway, Stephen, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. How are you?
It's good. It's good to see you. We were chatting. Stephen and I were chatting about one of the farms I lease is in Chula. And then another one's in near Itabena, and he was in Itabena recently. What were you doing there, buddy?
So I was there this past Saturday for the Marine Corps Memorial for the plane crash back in 17.
Yeah, man, that was a incredible situation. In fact, where they positioned and sort of rebuilt the pieces of that airplane and did the investigation is in a warehouse owned by a friend of mine, and it went on for many months. This thing just what a terrible disaster that was, don't you think, buddy?
Yeah, absolutely, it was. Our team we were called there and spent the better part of a month there searching the bean fields for parts and equipment. To help with the investigation.
Yeah, I mean, parts were just scattered for, I guess, miles, huh? I mean, literally miles.
Absolutely miles.
Unbelievable. Stephen, how long have you been with the department?
So I'm on my 17th year with the department.
I hear that a lot, man. Folks, join the team and they get it in their blood and they stay there. Where are you from originally?
So Rankin County, here in Florence. I didn't move off far.
Yeah. So have you always loved the outdoors?
Absolutely. So I got a young start with my father, hunting the Delta and like we were speaking about earlier, up in Chula, Mississippi, up Morgan's Break and all the refuges up that way. So, man,
I tell you, the department, I've had the pleasure of talking to so many people from the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks that are focused on enhancing public land, and the opportunities we have, Morgan Break being one of them, the opportunities we had to hunt public land in the state is really incredible, isn't it?
It is. That it is.
So did you start as an officer, or did you do other stuff before you did that?
No, I came straight on as a law enforcement bureau. So started in Rankin County. I worked probably 12 years there. In the field before becoming a supervisor and working my way up onto which now what I do now is special response team commander. So
you've seen a lot during those years, haven't you, my friend?
That I have, but I've enjoyed every bit of it.
You know what I've made this point. I've had many of your leaders on this show, and it's interesting to watch it. But in the old days, they used to give you a good talking to and give you a gun and a car or a truck and say go do your job. Very little training in the old days. Today is a different world, isn't it?
Yes. We do a fair bit of training, especially on special response team, but also as a new officer coming up, I believe you talked to Captain Madden in a previous show. So yeah, training is paramount with what we do.
It's so important. I love the emphasis on de-escalation, and what the point that he makes and others have made is that the majority of people who may break the law or find themselves in a position where you guys are at least checking on them, their safety or whatever. They want to do well, and then they don't have any ill intent. The 1 or less than 1% of the time you do come across someone who does have ill intent, you got to be prepared. But your goal is to de-escalate the situation and have a relationship and communication with people. That's really important, isn't it?
It is. Yes, sir, it is.
So, what is the special response team?
So yeah, we got a 40-man team, and we assist the local, county, and state, even federal partners with providing them either search and rescue, fugitive manhunts, drone support, different things like that. But that's what we do.
Man, that's incredible. So like, give us an example of a response that you guys did recently.
So the most recent would be Rolling Fork and Amory, the tornadoes that hit those two communities.
And it's incredible because people don't realize how fast you guys are on the scene in situations like that. I mean, the people that come. I had Major Glenn Jackson on last week, and I didn't expect at the beginning of the conversation to learn that he was from Rolling Fork. And I'll tell you, it was a very touching part of the conversation, to be honest with you. And we'll, on the other side, I'll tell you what I learned from him, and we can talk a little bit about what you guys did in that disaster response when we come back from the break. But we're having a conversation with Officer Stephen Westerfield. We're going to get into more detail about the work that he does at the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks when we get back on the other side. We'll see you after this break.
Mississippi.
Mississippi's Outdoors. It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. I'm thrilled to have my friend Stephen Westerfield, who is on the special response team. I guess you're the leader of that team, huh Stephen?
Yeah, sir. I started. I was one of the initial members years ago when it started, and fortunate enough to become the commander over it. And that's been about 2 years ago. So I've held the spot for 2 years, and it's
that's pretty cool. Hey, listen, when we went to break, I mentioned that I had Major Glenn Jackson on my show last week, and he said that. I said, "Where are you from?" I didn't have it in his bio material. He said, "Rolling Fork." And I said, "Wow, man, really?" You know, because I have a show on the coast called The Ricky Matthews Show, and I was the publisher of the Sun Herald after Katrina. We won a Pulitzer Prize for the work that the team did after Hurricane Katrina. I helped Haley Barber write his book on Katrina, and also wrote the foreword to his book. So I talk a lot about what's in the heart and soul of Mississippians, you know. And on my show I talked a lot about the recent tornadoes that went through the Delta. When you go to a place like that and you see how people come together, white people and black people and Democrats and Republicans, none of that matters. It's neighbor helping neighbor. And what we see in the heart and soul of our fellow Mississippians is truly incredible. And Major Glenn Jackson mentioned to me that his family lost 10 homes in Rolling Fork. Thank God no one was injured or killed. And but he also spoke so favorably about what he saw and the people who came there to help. But you saw that as well, didn't you, my friend?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. The response, not only from agencies, but from the public, the general public coming in, donating equipment, their time, food. It's something amazing to see. And Mississippians, I'm proud to be a Mississippian.
Hey, sister, when you guys are developing your team, I think you said you have 40 people on your team now. Is that a sought after position? Are there people that really want to get on this?
Yes, sir, it is. Of course, we try to have tryouts to fill the ranks every single year. Of course, we lose people to retirement and just moving on to different careers. So actually, we just had a tryout last month where we had 9 newer officers try out and go through the PT portion, just like you're coming through the academy once again, and then straight into the interview process.
So are members of the special response team geographically positioned all across the state? Tell us how you guys mobilize.
Sure. So we have 3 regions. North, Central, South, and we have officers from all the way from Tippah County all the way to Gulfport. Try to spread them out so when we do get a call for assistance from a local agency, the response time's limited. You know, we can be there as fast as possible. So we try to spread the officers out as best we can.
So a wide range of possibilities. Someone could be missing. on the water. Someone could be missing in a forest somewhere. Could be a significant accident. Give us the range of things that you might get called to do.
Sure. So every month and every year we get either calls of an amber alert, silver alert, which is missing individuals. Local agencies that call us if they're overwhelmed or need more help. They will call us in to assist with that, and we try to respond as quickly as we can to meet the need and to get the individuals back to their families.
So how do you decide whether does the whole team go or how do you decide what you need?
Yeah, well, each call is going to be specific. So that's my job, is to look of where it's at, what the request is, availability of the officers, and try to deploy as many officers as I can to help out with that situation.
Like, for example, the plane crash that you and I were talking about that happened between Greenwood and Itabena a couple of years ago. How long ago was it actually now?
I believe that was in 2007. They were just, 2017. They just had their 6th memorial anniversary.
So is that an all hands hit the deck scenario?
That was a all hands hit the deck. Like I said, for a month of our career, we were out there every day trying to locate family members first, and then obviously equipment and plane parts. So the tornadoes, is that an all hands hit deck scenario as well? So that even maxed out our special response team. So we had to reach out to field officers and pull them in to assist with that as well. Of course, it happened in the middle of the night, and our officers, like always, responded as fast as they could. We got there and started to get to work.
It's incredible how you guys go toward wherever the need's going to be, and they get there quick, don't they?
We do. We try to.
So as you look at the type of people who are engaged in the work of doing the deployments, the search and rescue, and whatever else you might be involved in on the special response team, what's the makeup of someone who's interested in doing the work that you guys are doing?
Yeah, so I think it's just like Mississippi. It's vast. It takes all kinds, and we come together and we get the job done. And I love the team. I love the friendships that we've made over the years of traveling and deployments. Our team's gone a lot of times, so it takes a toll on our family as well.
Yeah, I'm a former. I went to the University of Alabama in Birmingham before. I went on to get a degree in business and an MBA, but early part of my life, I became an advanced paramedic and worked as a paramedic for a short period of time, and then I was in pre-med. My goal was actually to be an emergency room physician, but I worked as a paramedic, so I have a sense of what life can be like for you guys as you get deployed. It can be exciting. So you probably have lulls in the action along the way, and then suddenly something occurs, and it's heavy duty work for a period of time, and then there's a lull again. How long can the lulls be?
Yeah, so usually it comes in a series. So a lot of times you'll be down for a while, and we try to fill that with training. So our guys are prepared physically and mentally to go out and meet the need. Of course, tornadoes happen, they strike quick, where a hurricane's a completely different response. Of course, we respond to them, it seems like every year these days.
It sure does, doesn't it, man? I'm on the coast. I know well. So what kind of equipment do you guys have access to, Stephen?
So as far as the department's concerned, we call upon field officers' equipment as anything from airboats to swiftwater boats to regular river boats. A lot of specialty equipment. We have rapid deployment tents where if we got to set up shelter in a bean field like at Itabena, we can do that. Air conditions, generators. we try to get out. We got to have 72 hours of self-sustainment. So we got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's interesting. Anything else you want to say about the work that you do? I want to shift gears and talk about what you do in the outdoors when you're not working. Yeah. So what's your biggest love these days in the outdoors?
So it's going to be bass fishing. I absolutely love freshwater fishing. And actually, my father just retired last week, so get to enjoy time with him again, and just get out as much as we can and bass fish.
I say, Stephen, I say this all the time that a family that enjoys the outdoors together stays together. But I have a son who lives in New York City now. He works for Price Waterhouse, but the thing Ann told me she got a call from him last night. This is after I went to bed, and he was planning a trip home with his girlfriend, and he was just making sure that they would be able to do board games or whatever whatever the girls might want to do, because he wants to go fishing with dad. So that I find, and my other son lives here with me. I have a daughter who lives here as well, and they all love to fish, and now their kids are learning to fish, and it's special. But man, that time with your dad is you can't trade that for anything, can you?
No, it cannot. We had a great Father's Day. Of course, I have two daughters of my own, and that's what our Father's Day was at his house, doing some.
Have you been lucky enough to get them to fall in love with the outdoors?
Yeah, that's my goal. We strive for it every day. Of course, they keep me busy. Keep me busy with travel, soccer, and all the above. So.
Boy, I know my two of my grandkids are in Auburn now at the Auburn soccer training facility. Listen, it's been a pleasure, Stephen Westerfield, to visit with you today. You got a great smile for people who are watching on YouTube or Facebook and are on SuperTalk TV. Hey, when we come back, we'll visit with Stan Crider. We'll see you after this.
All right.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors again as we listen to my friend Steve Azar's One Mississippi, the theme song for Super Talk Outdoors. I really enjoyed that conversation with Stephen Westerfield. He's an officer with the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks, and he's the commander of the Special Response Team. Every week we dive a little deeper into the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks and learn about all these dedicated people that are doing so much incredible work. And as I mentioned, the conversation I had with Major Glenn Jackson last week, and to learn, during the show that he's from Rolling Fork, and that he had 5 families, they lost 10 homes in that storm. And then, of course, to learn from Stephen that the Special Response Team was on the ground there within hours after the tornado. It's amazing to watch all these different departments in the government entities that make up Mississippi respond to disasters. We've seen it here in coastal Mississippi after hurricanes many times. We saw it in Moss Point as Moss Point continues to undig from the tornado that just went through Moss Point the last couple of weeks. So I really enjoyed getting to know Stephen better. So now let's shift gears and move over to Stan Crider, someone also who's not been on the show before. He's a fisheries biologist in what they call the coastal region, involving freshwater, saltwater, as we'll discuss here in just a second, as part of the Department of Marine Resources. But Stan is also a conservation officer. But how you doing, Stan?
Doing fine.
We got an opportunity. Stan joined us earlier when Stephen joined us, and we got a chance to chat just a little bit before the show started. And I always enjoy getting to know people like Stan. Stan, have you always loved the outdoors?
All the time. Every chance to like to get out there, I do it.
Where did you learn the love of the outdoors?
I was very blessed with both sides of my family. My mother and my dad liked to do hunting and fishing, but I was definitely partial to the fishing side of it.
Did you do any hunting?
I did better fishing when people were out in hunting seasons. I had the water to myself.
Well, listen, I'm with you, man. I started, my life started as big time fisherman because my dad loved to fish, and then my 2 grandfathers loved to fish. and I lived in Gulfport in an area of Gulfport called Bellevue. And my neighbor across the street had several neighbors, but my neighbor who I was in the same class with, Farrell Allman, who owns a clothing store here in coastal Mississippi now, lived across the street on the bayou. And I used to go over there and fish every chance I get. I mean, I was just addicted to fishing when I was growing up, and eventually started to do some dove hunting, and that went into squirrel hunting, and eventually, into duck and deer hunting. But we usually get it from somebody in our family, and sounds like you guys really enjoyed fishing.
I did. It was a blessing to be able to do it and have a family to be raised with like that.
So, and then of course, as I mentioned with Stephen, my kids and my grandkids and I, we can't get enough of it. That's for sure. So, so you joined the department. What did you join the department as? So you said 24 years ago?
That's correct.
Wow, that's been a long career. What did you start as?
Well, I started out as a fisheries biologist, and at that time you had to be sworn to start an agency. So I was also a captain at that point. But the agency has gone different directions at that point. So mainly I focus on just the fisheries, and I'm not in the rank system now. Yeah,
but you're also a conservation officer, so they can call on you if they need you, can't they?
That's correct. Usually that's the opening of the seasons.
So in your day-to-day work as the fisheries biologist for the coastal region, give us a sense of what you had to say grace over.
Well, one of the things is I enjoy, we deal mainly with the public waters in the coastal counties, and that's gone further west at this point. But on one of the side things that I do at statewide is I do a bass tournament report, which means a lot to me that helps the bass fishermen out. And I've been doing that for several years, and that also involves other states. And I give a report also to Bassmaster Magazine to let people know what's going on within the state.
Well, that's exciting, because as I pay more attention to the bass tournament, there's so many. There's just small tournaments that happen through clubs, and there are much bigger tournaments that are taking place across Mississippi. Some that are nationally important. I can tell because I live on the water here in coastal Mississippi. When there's a bass tournament, the boats, whenever they do their shotgun start or however they get the start, boats suddenly are just screaming by my house, headed up the rivers into the fresh water. But we haven't lost interest in bass fishing. Bass fishing has gotten more popular, hasn't it?
I believe it has. You had a little lull with coronavirus in there, but people are still wanting to get back on the water as soon as possible, and it's really come back stronger, in my opinion.
So we have the distinction of having some incredible bass lakes in this state, don't we?
We do.
Give us some headlines on what you see in the fishing here in the state.
I've been doing the report for several years now, but in 2022, based on the tournaments that I had come in from different bodies or tournament organizers, Ross Barnett turned out to be the highest ranked lake in the entire state this past year. Last year it's Pickwick. It bounces around, it goes in cycles. The second was Bay Springs. Like I said, this is across the whole state. The Tennessee Tongue Bigby waterways. The way I handle that, you don't have as many tournaments on different little locks, so I combine them, and I put Columbus separate, but it was third. Oklahoma Lake, that's a state lake, finished fourth. So I like to pump them. That's pretty impressive because they finished ahead of Pickwick. Pickwick is a good water body for fishing, for bass, but I thought that's pretty special for Oklahoma Lake to be that high. So I put a little extra out there. And you also have one in the Delta that finished sixth. Actually, it was a three-way tie between Lake Washington, the Pascagoula River Marsh, which are going southeast, and Sardis Lake.
Yeah, speaking of Pascagoula, largest undammed waterway in the entire United States. That is a special water body, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And that is a diamond for the entire country, not just Mississippi. And this agency is put in charge of being the caretaker of it. And I would recommend anybody, I've actually checked people in that swamp from Minnesota and Wisconsin coming down, taking pictures of birds. If anybody wants to see something special, they need to float it, just get an oxbow or float it down with a kayak and canoe and see what it's like for yourself. I recommend that for anyone. That has nothing to do with fishing, but that's something we're blessed with in Mississippi.
No, if you look at the hunting that goes on along the river, both deer and other species, you look at alligator. You look at the great fishing, both the freshwater fishing as you get further south, the saltwater fishing, for speckled trout and redfish. Just the sights and the scenes, man. I mean, as you pointed out, the photography, people just go in there and just take advantage of the photography. But I was a publisher of the Sun Herald here on the coast and also in Mobile. And we tried to stay as focused as we could to help people understand that this is a treasure, not just for Mississippi, but for, as you pointed out, for the entire United States. It's one of the reasons why I say Mississippi is the capital of the outdoors in America, because you think about the Mississippi Delta maybe being one bookend, and then you got Pascagoula River Complex being maybe another bookend, and the coastal fishing, both backwaters and offshore, and the hunting and lakes, and this state has it all, doesn't it?
It does. And to me, probably the biggest blessing in working for this agency when I had to relocate to the southeast part of the state was being able to work with the Pascagoula River system. The other coastal rivers are fine, Chuticabuf, Wolf, they're great rivers to float, but when you get a river that size as the Pascagoula, that's different. And just because of the size of it. Yeah,
it is very, very significant. What I tell people to do is get on Google Earth and go over there to Jackson County here on the coast and find the Pascagoula River and just follow it up and get a sense of the watershed. It is a gigantic watershed, and the fact that there's no dam anywhere on it makes it even more pristine and more important, doesn't it?
It is. And one of the things that I did to point out, I'm not in the Game Bureau, but I'm pretty sure there's over 40,000 acres in George and Jackson County that the state has. That's public land that people can have access to and enjoy and appreciate.
Yeah. I mean, I think, one of the things I enjoy celebrating on this show is the fact that our forefathers were so smart when they created so much public land, man. And now we've got the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund that can be spending millions of dollars every year on enhancing our outdoor enjoyment, both on private and public land, but dealing with things like creating more easements to get to public land and things like that. The wildlife management areas are incredible. What we do on the duck hunting side to really enhance that, what we do on the deer hunting side to enhance that. It's very special. And I've got a friend of mine who lives over in Hancock County, and he has used your services to manage what has turned out to be an incredible lake. I mean, it is a beautiful lake. I mean, he's doing everything you're supposed to do. He's doing the population surveys. He's fertilizing it. He's liming it. He's got a group of people that go, including my son, who go in to take the certain size of the bass out. And whoo, buddy, it's special. So people will listen to you guys. What you bring to the table just helps take it to a whole new level. In fact, we're coming to the end of this segment. When we get on the other side, we'll let you talk more about that. But the work that the department's doing to manage both public and private lakes to enhance them is just super special. What a wonderful thing that we offer here in the state. We'll see you when we come back from the break as we continue our conversation with Stan Crider, who is a fisheries biologist for the coastal region and also a conservation officer. We'll see you after this.
I said 3 Mississippi to this land called home. I'll breathe Mississippi till I'm dead and gone. Just carry on, I'll carry on. Mississippi.
We live in one of the best places in America to enjoy the outdoors. So let's talk about it. It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. We have Stan Crider, who's a fisheries biologist in the coastal region. He's also a conservation officer. He's got a bunch of different roles. I enjoyed in the first segment with him talking about the data that he's collecting from bass tournaments that take place across the state. What a great way to kind of get a sense of, how how the various lakes and water bodies, freshwater bodies are performing. Hey, by the way, I noticed in your background there's an Ole Miss diploma. Did you go to Ole Miss?
I graduated from Ole Miss with a bachelor's and LSU with a master's. That's my wife. She got hers at Ole Miss.
Oh, good, good. You're a well-educated family, that's for sure. Hey, when we went to break, I mentioned that my friend has followed the advice of the biologist from the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks on his private lake. And man, over the past 5 or 6 years, however long he's been managing it, the way that you guys advise him to manage it, it's special, man. It's really special. But you guys know what you're doing, don't you?
I would like to think that we did. I'll be humble and say, hope it all works out each time.
So, it's that you are so focused on best practices and what it takes, and you're constantly, maybe stepping your game up by learning what others are doing. What makes it so successful?
I guess, and it's a simple thing, is you need to care. That's the biggest thing. And if you care, you're motivated to do other things, whether it be public water or private water.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I had Heather Peterson on from Paul B. Johnson State Park last week as well. We were talking about the fireworks display that's going to be there, and she said there won't be a place to park. There'll be so many people in that park. But how's the Paul B. Johnson State Park lake doing these days?
It's doing fine. One of the things you got to remember in the Southeast is the soils are so infertile. It's not like the Delta. It's harder to produce a fish compared to the Delta or a crop like it is in the Delta. So you got to do other things. You got to consider liming, you got to consider fertilizing, and you got to also be considering aquatic plants taking advantage of the fertilizer because it's subtropical compared to other parts of the state.
Yeah.
So the lake is doing fine, but the thing is, it has to be managed intensively to be able to keep it there. And that's like that with most of the lakes in the Southeast compared to other parts of the state.
That's what Heather said. Heather said, in fact, they did a population study recently, actually, and it came out pretty darn good. But I was actually surprised on the friend that I mentioned that you guys have given him some advice on how to manage his lake. But the amount of fertilizer and lime that he had to put in, I mean, it was in the tons. It was a significant effort to get that water right. But that's just what you got to do if you want to be serious about it, isn't it?
That's correct, and you need to do it the right way. In that particular case, down in the southeastern part of the state, you don't need to guess at it. With the fertilizer and lime, you need to do soil tests to make sure the lime is correct, and then you need to do the amount correct with the fertilizer, because if you overdo it, you could be throwing money away, and it's not reacting perfectly to help the fish population out.
Yeah, one of the things I learned is that if you have pines near the lake, it has a tendency to really affect the lake and makes you even more focused on trying to get that pH right. But that's a big deal. We had a lot of pines in the South as well, don't we?
Well, it's acidic soil, and that's what you're competing against. You're trying to get it balanced out as much as possible with the acidity.
Hey, so how often are you called on to be a conservation officer?
With me, in my case, it's agency policy, and I would do it anyway if they let me. The opening of the seasons, you need to go out there. For example, the dove season, the deer season, the duck season, spring turkey season, you need to go out there and assist them because it's a manpower issue. So I'm glad to do that anytime. Or if they have another issue they need some help with, or any other bureau, I'll be glad to help out when they need it.
So where are you based these days, Stan?
Well, I would say it's Region 3, but that's basically going from Waynesboro to Natchez South. That's several counties to cover. So I would say it's in that area, but with our situation with biologists, I would say we're pretty much based out of Jackson.
Yeah, I get it. How often do you get to enjoy the outdoors yourself these days?
Whenever I have the opportunity, I will. I'll get out there and go fishing with the kids if I'm blessed enough for them to want to go fishing with me. My son will a good bit. My daughter wants to go exploring in the woods, so that's great every chance I get to get out. And once again, the Pascagoula River and that WMA is a great place to go.
So it sounds like you've really learned to have a passion for the Pascagoula River based on what I learned earlier, and you mentioned it again now. It's somewhere you spend some time, isn't it?
It is, because I've been other places in previous jobs I've had, and I've seen what it looks like for a river or a stream to be channelized or desnagged, and you don't have the free meandering like that, and you don't have the trees in the situation that they're in being, I'm not going to, the original state. You don't have the
right.
And it's not unique to see.
It defines pristine. My son went there. My son Jordan went there in the past couple of years. And he said, Dad, you're not going to believe it. I mean, he'll leave here and he's got a couple little oxbows that he can go fish for crappies and whatever. He said, Dad, I've got 2 spots here. There are thousands there. I don't know if you could ever even get to all of them. It's so incredible. But to watch his reaction was really incredible to see. Stan Crider, fishery biologist for the coastal region. It's been a pleasure to spend some time with you, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Listen, thank you for joining us on Super Talk Outdoors. Hey, listen, go to the Foundation for Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks raffle. Look that up, and you need to buy your tickets. Get your tickets. You'll be glad you did. Very special prizes. Listen, stay safe when you're in the outdoors, and we'll see you next week. God bless you.